around, but do we think that this person who's being considered for this role can actually do this, right? That's what we look for.
Roger.
Because a service chief is not the same discipline as a combatant commander. It's completely different.
I can agree with that. 100%. And
Do you have a
that's another.
follow-up? We should move on.
I do.
One
So
more, and then
for
we'll move on, okay?
Roger that. So for when the time comes that we do have a SOCOM combatant commander, we do have a JFC combatant commander, and we go into conflict, do you plan on handing over tactical command to those individuals, or would you still rely
First
on
of
your
all, the
service
chairman of
chief?
the Joint Chiefs of Staff is legally prohibited from having operational command over the military. And if you look back
Yep.
on my tenure in this position, I have never once exerted operational command of military forces. The Secretary of Defense, on the other hand, is obligated and required to maintain civilian operational command and administrative command of military forces. The Secretary of Defense should, under no circumstances, hand that off to anyone. In terms of the ability of a combatant commander to give orders, they have more authority than I do by law to give those instructions. So it's not a matter of whether or not I will give it away. It already is given away. It was given away in 1986.
Well, no, I mean, well, more or less because there are some cases where we don't have the combatant commanders, and we have
In
to
that
rely
case, it's
on.
up to that combatant commander to pass down the authority to officers that are present or the ones that he selects based on his assessment of the situation, not me.
All right, that's all.
Thank you. Chicagoan, to quickly answer your question, it takes as long as it takes. As myself and the Secretary of Defense do not appoint flag officers or remove them within a matter of seconds. We take time to consider how things are going to work. We take time to consider the person in question. We take time to interview people that are around them. And although you may make a nerd face when I talk about administrative versus operational control, it's actually quite important. And it reflects the civilian authority that the president and others maintain over the military, and people like me not taking that authority away from them.
Yeah. And hey, by the way, this is the guy that votes on your bog, by the way. Cools. Just saying.
Actually, the bog is right there. It's sitting
Yeah.
at the desk, so
Yeah.
All right.
So
Thank you,
you
Jeremy.
should
sorry.
be a little careful. Anyway. Next question. Roblox, are you trying to ask a question or do you just have your hand up?
That answers that.
Okay. Are there any more questions? I mean, we're only like 18 minutes in. We're like 13 minutes in.
Yeah, your
And
statement was quite short.
it was. If
It's
you've got a
okay if you take us.
question,
It's okay to use the second row, guys. Perfectly okay.
okay, we've got a question from the Assistant Commandant of the Marine
Yes,
Corps.
General.
I don't think that's very relevant to the Department of Defense, but I don't really think anything about it. I don't really watch football, but
Chicago, we would certainly like to. It's just what we have experienced over the this UN and the previous one is that there are so few nations these days that actually have sustainable and functioning militaries. Now, if you've been here for a long time, like unfortunately I have, you remember when the UN was full of militaries that were huge threats to us. There was constant activity going on, and we were at a sometimes at a disadvantage because there was lots of large nations that had lots of large militaries. That hasn't been the case for the last 20 months. The last comparable thing that we have seen in terms of other nations having a significant military would have been maybe IDF back in Israel in our, I think not this UN, not our previous UN, but the UN before that. I think that's what we had. there are nations, but they're just, we unfortunately are finding ourselves in a position where we are the most active and the best military force around. So that's not to say that we don't want to do joint actions with our fellow militaries. I would absolutely love to. I just wish that they would get off their butts and be as active as we are, because they're not.
Yeah. That is part of our plan. If we do end up in a situation where we are surrounded by active nations that can support international drills, can't be sure if we ever will, but if we ever are, that is something that I definitely do think that we should look into. Uh, Part of the reason that I want to do war games is because having that rivalry, having that competition, trying to be better than other members of your organization is part of what makes people strive to be the best. So that's part of the point. Um, anyway, moving on. A question from General Cold. Go ahead.
If this is about sports teams, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. We don't know.
The answer to your question is who knows? Because for those of you that don't understand how a res happened, I'll try not to talk for too long, but it's important for you to understand why a res happened, and for the president as well, because I know he's listening. A res was a natural foreign conflict that evolved into a war. It was not the other way around. Taiwan, Korea, Ridgeway, and the other recent conflicts that we've been involved in were all manufactured. That is, that we went into it knowing it was going to be a war. Erez was unique in that we did not know that there was going to be a war. Israel had an Erez crossing game in place, and they had a separate terrorist faction that was attacking them and trying to destabilize their whatever. It was some sort of strange name to avoid filters. I can't remember now, but there was a terrorist faction that was attacking Israel, and they called us in to help. And the entire reason that that war started was because a member of USM, that at the time Hath was the Secretary of Defense, he stepped out onto the field and got himself shot in a false flag. That dragged us into that war. So when we talk about natural war, that's what we mean. Conflicts that come about because of foreign issues that are real and that actually involve other countries in our UN. As a result of the circumstances of that conflict, there was huge press attention, both domestically and on the foreign stage. Congress got involved in it. It was a huge deal, and it resulted in a gigantic activity boost for us. So I've been asked before when we're going to have another Erez war. At the end of the day, nobody knows because a lot of things have to align for that to happen. As NUSA is seeing a gradual uptick, as some of you may have noticed, like I said before, it's very gradual. I wouldn't think that Mr. President, I admire your optimism, but your predecessor said that too, and I'm sorry, but Korea was not a res. That being said, as we begin this uptick, I am hopeful that that will lead to increased conflict, to increased activity, and with that, hopefully, we will have those entrenched issues that we can join into as a military force. I'm hopeful for that. But I don't think anybody can promise it. I don't think anybody can tell me that it's 100% going to happen. I don't think anybody can tell me exactly when it'll be. We just have to be always ready for it. And that's part of what the Secretary of Defense is trying to do with readiness exercises and our general force structure being prepared to deploy at any time.
Now, I wanted to say, I think that war is a great feeling, especially when it's a war like Erez, when there's fervor behind it. But I don't think that our goal should be to try and replicate that. I think that our goal should be to be ready for it because it's going to happen eventually. We just have to wait for the right time.
And I want civilian politicians, Mr. President, I know you know this, but there are others that maybe don't, especially those in Congress who are listening, if any of them are. I don't think any, actually, now that I'm looking at it, I don't think anybody is. But manufactured war is not bad in the sense that it's a great exercise for us, and I would not say that it hurts. But when you do that, it's just not the same thing as getting into a fight with another nation in our United Nations or even outside the UN, getting into a fight with a nation that leads to war. That's more fun for everybody involved. So there have been several efforts over the last 2 presidential terms that have worked on how do we create war. And I think that when you have that as the goal rather than the foreign relations aspect coming first, that's when we have manufactured wars, and those just are not as good. They're just not as good as the conflicts that come about as a result of a foreign issue, if that makes any sense to anybody. Chicago, as far as we know, we will not have the Pentagon on release. I know that it is eventually planned, I've been told, but we will not have it on release, no.
I wanted to say, just to kind of put the cherry on top of what the chairman is saying, a good direction to move in would be for the DoD to support U.S. interests, because that is pretty much the purpose of our existence. It's nice when that comes into play. As somebody who's been in USM, as somebody who's been around for a little while, who's around for Ridgeway eras and everything in between, it's always better when the idea is just to support our guys, when the idea is just to support the US. Anyway, moving on. Any more questions from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand or just come to the front of the stage. Nothing? You'll think of one. Make it a good one. Don't make it about sports, please.
Yeah, we're not athletic here. It's as Chicago pointed out, we're a bunch of nerds.
And actually, while we're here, Invor, can you make sure that the rear admiral sitting on your left is wearing proper uniform? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I did just want to say, since we did kind of brush on the topic, since the Korean War is over, I wanted to kind of cap it off by saying complete victory for USM. I know that they questioned on multiple occasions how they questioned our victory on multiple occasions, but I think that it's without a doubt a complete United States victory on all counts. We won every single raid that we went into. We won every single event with regards to it. I know that they did try and balance it all on that boxing match near the end, but at the end of the day, that was pretty much just handed to them. We all know that. Everything else we won. We absolutely won the Korean conflict, and very proud to have it under our belt.
Mr. President, what are you doing? Why do you need that?
Anyway, no more questions? Oh, we have a question from John of Doom. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Hi, John.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Sorry for joining the press conference a little late. I was wondering how do you think the Department of Defense is doing in terms of recruiting?
Recruiting. I would say that NUSA itself has been in a slump for a little while, but as the chairman has brought up, NUSA is actually on a little bit of an uptick, and we've noticed that in the branches. For example, the Army, While I do want to attribute it to General Zachary W. Braddock coming back, he's very good at his job. I'm very happy to have him. Um, they actually saw a good 5 recruits, I think, last week, which they've been seeing 0 for months, which is incredibly nice to see. It tells me that we're on an uptick, we're moving upwards, and we're going to start doing better, and that things are starting to align, is what that tells me.
Which reminds me of my other question. You are probably aware of the chat update that's going to happen in Roblox, I believe, within the next month or two.
Yes.
How has the Department of Defense been preparing for that, especially since many users are within different age ranges?
I don't think we can. I mean, I really don't think we can. Um, I I'm sure that the Secretary of Defense has also studied this, but
I want to say, while we're on this topic, most of our communications happen over Discord. Worst case, we may not be able to do inspections the way that we expect to, because most inspections occur over text. Most ceremonies occur over text. BMTs occur over text, but it may be possible that we just need to alter the way that they work, to rely less on text chat. Um, Personally, I feel like it may not be as consequential as people are saying, but this isn't something I'm up to debate. I do want to say that we're prepared. We're prepared. We will survive if the chat thing comes into effect. But end of the day, most of our operational communications happen over Discord either way. So we will still be able to deploy. We will still be able to do events. We will still exist.
That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? If there are questions, please come to the front or raise your hand in the VC.